About an hour and a half's drive east of Portland sits Oregon's highest mountain, Mount Hood. Like Rainier, it is one of the volcanic peaks of the Northwest Cascade Range. Perched 6,000 feet up the south side of the mountain is the awesome Timberline Lodge, an amazing achievement born on the heels of one of America's darkest moments.
Timberline was built in the Depression, and I think it still stands as a symbol of hard work and determination and quality.
What it reflects at the time of our history, of the Great Depression, and the American public's willingness and ability to recover from that.
And all Americans should be proud of what we can do when we pull together on something like that and given the opportunity to do it and to do our very best.
In the early 1930s, America was reeling in the midst of the Great Depression.
There was a crisis in this country, unparalleled other than the Civil War. And Franklin Roosevelt was elected to office in part because he promised to bring the country out of that. The hotel is a product of its time. You had recreation growing, you had skiing industry that was clamoring for this opportunity for a hotel on a mountain. You had the Great Depression, and then FDR's response to that in the New Deal.
Part of the New Deal was the Works Progress Administration. The WPA was charged with funding projects that could employ and train an American workforce decimated by the Depression. Timberline Lodge was intended to teach new trades to hundreds of workers. Unlike other lodges, it was built with public money and on Forest Service lands, not in a national park. Construction began in 1935 with more than 600 trainees taking part. Timberline was completed in 1937 and dedicated by President Roosevelt.
One of the design schemes for the building and one of the parameters was to use local materials. They wanted to showcase local materials in the construction as well as local artisans and craftsmen and architects in developing the lodge. The lodge itself, it grows right out of the mountain, the way it's been designed and sited on the mountain.
Timberline's original structure has remained virtually unchanged for over 60 years. Built in three main sections, the two side wings are joined by an enormous three-story hexagonal head house, featuring a center 80-foot-high chimney with three hearths on each floor.
The main head house fireplace is sort of the central focus of the building. The rock work is so big and massive that it seems to be the focal point for the whole room. This is my favorite room of the whole building, and we call it the heart of the mountain area, and the fireplace is all the original rock work and the handling wrought iron, and you've got the wonderful handrails that are made out of the railroad tracks. The room itself has the same 6 sides, and the fireplace has the same 6 sides, and the big tall pillars have the same 6 sides. So it's a great way to see that the architects and the blueprints and the craftsmen all work together, hand in hand.
Echoing the hexagonal theme, 3 massive iron chandeliers light the main level. The head house is also home to the Cascade Dining Room. And on the upper level, the Ram's Head Bar, one of 2 in the lodge. The upper level also has a dining area featuring several little nooks and alcoves, and Depression-era art decorates nearly every wall.
There were a number of artists on the WPA project who are of national stature. Howard Sewell painted a number of oil paintings for the lodge, including 2 large murals that were used in the Cascade Dining Room for many years. In this room, the Blue Ox Bar, there are glass murals that were executed by Virginia Darcy. First she did drawings and then cut the glass to fit in place. They show Paul Bunyan and his Blue Ox Babe.
It was a real renaissance in art in America during the Roosevelt time, and this building is a personification of that. The WPA had a teaching component to it. So they had some good lead craftsmen up here, but they were also teachers and taught other people to be ironsmiths and wood carvers and weavers.
Dick Constam came to Timberline in 1955, at a time when the legacy of the early artisans was in danger of being lost. Years of mismanagement had plunged Timberline into debt and disrepair, and it was closed in 1954. After becoming the concessionaire, Dick's RLK company reopened the lodge and began a long process of restoring it to its original beauty. Known affectionately to the staff as RL, his vision is what has made the lodge the success it is today.
We've tried hard to keep the building looking the same as it has in the past, and I think people like that. It reminds them of when they were here before, because it is the same, and we don't change it.
Once the structural problems were addressed, Dick faced an even bigger challenge. The lodge's fabrics, rugs, and handmade artwork had all become tattered and worn. Neither Dick or the Forest Service could afford to replace them with handmade items. So, the people of Oregon came to the rescue.
Friends of Timberline was established in 1975 by a group of people in Portland that loved the lodge, were avid skiers, longtime family history in Portland and Oregon. And they saw the lodge in a condition that was unacceptable, and they really took the task.
Friends of Timberline was the last piece. Today, this unique triumvirate of the Forest Service, the Friends Group, and the concessionaire ensure the future of Timberline Lodge.
Here you've got one of the biggest agencies in the country, a small private company, relatively small private company, and a tiny nonprofit do-good, all contributing to do a part of a job that nobody could afford to do before.
We always try to maintain the historic integrity using the same fabrics, using the same techniques, and in some cases using the same people.
I've always looked at this place like a big dollhouse.
Linnie Adamson was first hired to loom fabrics for Friends of Timberline in 1975. She quickly fell in love with the lodge and has been involved ever since. As curator, she oversees the upkeep and preservation of Timberline's handmade arts and crafts.
Friends of Timberline sponsored craftsmen for a number of years and still do, to replace things that were missing from the lodge originally. What's unique to us is that the craftsmen really never stopped creating for the building. Here we still believe on the hands-on, and we're not faking it. We don't have to play like we're candle makers or weavers or blacksmiths. We're actually living it.
True to its WPA roots, Timberline is now training a whole new generation of volunteers in restoring and maintaining its handmade artwork.
We're restoring the wood. So first what we're doing is doing a light cleaning, and then we're going to go back over it with some oils. Everything in this building is hand done, handcrafted. There are no machined pieces. And I think that's why it's a world-class building.
Some of the most significant craft work in the lodge is its hand-forged iron. Original items like the zigzag-framed chandeliers in the headhouse complement more recent additions like the iron banisters with pine cone finials installed for safety. All of this ironwork is in the charge of blacksmith extraordinaire Darrell Nelson.
The really special thing about Timberline as opposed to ironwork in other places is that most of the smiths that worked at Timberline weren't ornamental or architectural or decorative smiths. They were smiths from the railroad or logging company smiths. And the work reflects that in its mass and in its simplicity to perform the task that it's been made to do.
The original ironwork was designed and built by Timberline's first blacksmith, O.B. Dawson. 40 years later, he trained an amateur blacksmith named Russell Moggins, who restored and refinished the many pieces of ironwork in the 70s. Today, Darrell carries the baton for a new generation of iron enthusiasts.
I feel the obligation to pass on what I've learned as Russell passed on to me and OB passed on to him. And so it's one of the things that give me the most pleasure from this business is passing the knowledge on to young people. Well, Ram's Heads has kind of been a logo of Friends of Timberline. We started making these Ram's Heads in 1985 to sell, to earn funds to upkeep the lodge. There it is. Even with the Friends of Timberline and the funding that they come up with, there's so many things to spend it on that sometimes we forget to send in a bill. And at those times I feel like a preservationist.
I think people come here first and foremost for the skiing, for the snowboarding, to play in the snow, for the hiking, the climbing, the easy access to the outdoors.
It's a lot of fun living and working up here in the mountains.
Jason Smith is the executive sous chef at Timberline. Like many employees here, whenever he gets a break from work, he likes to take to the slopes of Mount Hood.
I guess I describe myself as a little bit more of a freestyle skier than like a racer. I like to hit jumps. I like cutting big turns on wide open spaces too. That's one of the things I like about skiing up at Timberline. Our guys that are doing our dishes in our dish room for us, you'll turn around and you'll see them every day as they're just being their dishwashers. Then all of a sudden you'll see them out on the slopes. They're all really good. A lot of talented people up here. If I go skiing before work, it's just for an hour or two, then head into work for another 8. We do that a lot throughout the season.
Okay, let's see. We have a lot of things going on this weekend, especially the Cloud Cap party up at the...
Food at Timberline is in the charge of Master Chef Leif Benson. He is known as a true pioneer of Northwest cuisine.
Everything that we do here makes a difference to me. So what happens in the morning and at breakfast and at lunch and when I'm not here makes a difference to me. We're looking for creating a very unique Northwest experience, not just coming up for food. Our challenge here is to make it unique enough where that it will be a different presentation, different preparation than probably anywhere else.
Let's say, are you, we're probably about 20 minutes from dessert? Okay, I think we're about ready to go.
The reason I wanted to have this dinner tonight is to kind of celebrate and thank the triumvirate that's made Timberline such a success, and that's Friends of Timberline and the U.S. Forest Service. We've done this together, and it's a big success. Cheers.
Timberline is an amazing achievement. From its work's progress roots through its decline and revitalization, it has spanned the years with great dignity and glory. It stands today as a symbol of America's artistic heritage and of Oregon's pride.
There's a real sense of spirit here, and a sense of ownership. And Timberline is sort of every Oregonian's mountain home, we call it.
I think people get a personal kick out of showing visitors from out of town how they have something special in Oregon that they can point with pride to.